Welcome in everyone, this is Sean with MTG808 Jr. and today we are going to go through my updates to my blue-red control deck that I'll be using to end boss the scholarship tournament with, and I'm going to be making some predictions about the upcoming metagame for War of the Spark Standard Pauper. This is going to be our first look at Standard Pauper with War of the Spark. This is our first youth tournament run. They haven't had any Standard Pauper events on Arena since War of the Spark came out, so this is really our first look at it. So first, this blue-red control deck. The only update to the main deck is I swapped out Ragefire for Jaya's Greeting. Of course, Ragefire is the same thing, except it's a sorcery and it does not scry, so being an instant is a huge upgrade in a deck that wants to hold up counter spells. And the scry is really good in the early game for digging you to lands, and then really good in the late game. When you have enough lands, you want to be drawing your action spells. So the scry is amazing, this card is amazing, and I cannot wait to play this deck. I feel like it's just going to get so much smoother playing with Jaya's Greeting. Even in the paper tournaments where Lightning Strike is legal, I was playing Lightning Strike in this spot in the paper tournaments, and even with Lightning Strike legal, I think Jaya's Greeting is just better in this deck. This deck never wants to point Lightning Strike at the face. It only ever wants to kill creatures with it. If you're shooting your opponent's face with Lightning Strike with this deck, you've probably already won, and shooting your opponent just means that you're going to win a turn faster. So huge upgrade for blue-red control. The rest of the deck is the same. If you've been following the videos, you have seen playthroughs with this deck before. It's great. I have built a sideboard, though. I never built a sideboard for this deck yet, simply because in Arena you just play best of one, so you don't need a sideboard. And then I haven't been sideboarding for the end boss matches because I always give the kids the option. If they're not going to sideboard, then I won't sideboard, and most of them just choose not to sideboard. But I did build a sideboard for this deck in case the kids want to sideboard. So for shocks, they're just better, or you want to lower your curve against the aggro decks, so just playing more cheap removal is great. Callous Dismissal kind of helps clean up a board that's going wide, right? You can bounce a token, leaves behind a 1/1 that can trade with another small token, so very solid card here at shoring up the matchups that are going wide. I might try one in the main deck over one blink of an eye, but for the main deck, I think drawing the card is better than making a 1/1. Burning Prophet here, a very powerful 2-drop. I would try it out in the main deck if I was playing other creatures, but right now I like having only hexproof creatures in the main deck. It's one of the strengths of the deck to just kind of like bounce or blank your opponent's removal in game 1, but in game 2, in the control mirrors especially, your opponents are going to be trimming on their spot removal, which means bringing in a cheap potent threat like Burning Prophet is a very solid strategy. And just being a 2-mana 1/3, you know, it blocks, it can attack decently, but just being a 2-mana 1/3 that lets you scry every time you cast a spell just means that the quality of your draws is going to be so much better if you have this card in play. And then the rest of the cards here are just kind of like for slower matchups. The 4th Cancel, the 3rd Devious Cover-Up. Devious Cover-Up is probably the most important card in the mirror match, because you just want to exile all your opponent's big threats. Oh, excuse me. You just want to exile all of your opponent's big threats and then loop your deck so that you never deck out and run out of threats. Tamio's Epiphany here is just more card draw for the deck for the slower matchups, and then the last Cold Water Snapper here. So, or not the last, but the 3rd Cold Water Snapper. So that's the deck. This deck will be waiting for the winner of this weekend's Youth Championship Scholarship Tournament, which we'll be playing on Saturday. First place gets $500 in scholarship. Second place gets $250 in scholarship. And as I said, it is going to be our first time looking at War of the Spark Standard Pauper. So now for my predictions for War of the Spark Standard Pauper. I don't think that there are going to be very many new archetypes. And what I mean by that is like the amass mechanic and the proliferate mechanic, which I was thinking might spawn some new archetypes. After playing with the cards in Limited more and hearing other pros mostly talk about the Limited format, I don't think that either of those are really going to be built around cards. I think that the very efficient amass creatures, along with the good proliferate cards, are just going to slot into other decks at best. The problem with the proliferate deck is that it's really easy to break apart the synergy with removal, and then if you have to like work really hard to get 2 counters off of a proliferate trigger, and then if your opponent like breaks up your board state with some removal, then your proliferate cards are just doing nothing extra. So I don't think there's going to be a build around proliferate deck. Would love to be proven wrong about that, but I just don't think it's gonna have what it takes to hold up to the bread and butter of the format. Similarly with Amass, I think Amass is a very good mechanic when you're just playing a few Amass cards. I don't think you want to be playing a build around Amass deck because, turning your 3/3 into a 4/4 is worth a lot less than making an extra 1/1. So, like Avon Eternal, Lazotep Reaver, Grim Initiate, I think those cards are all going to see play in their respective color decks, but I don't think that they are going to spawn some new big Amass deck. They're just going to slot into already existing decks that just want to upgrade their efficiency on spots in the curve. So I do think that Jaya's Greeting, Law Rune Enforcer, Giant Growth, Heartfire, Lazotep Reaver, Avon Eternal, I think all of these cards are going to see play, maybe even Bloomhulk. I think all these cards are going to see play, but I don't think any of them are going to spawn any new archetypes. Again, would love to be wrong about this, but that's just my prediction. I do think that Mono White aggro is probably going to come out strong. It was pretty good before this. It did take down our last youth scholarship tournament back in December with only Guilds of Ravnica. I think it was like 7 of our top 8 decks were playing 4 Healer's Hawks. So, the deck got another very powerful 1-drop with Law Rune Enforcer. So I would be very surprised if the students or the youth players with the scholarship on the line don't just pick up a very solid white aggro deck. The red aggro deck also got a bunch of tools. I think Jaya's Greeting is a big upgrade. I think Heartfire is a big upgrade. I think Grim Initiate is potentially very strong. So would love to see how people update these existing archetypes. But again, I don't think very many new archetypes are going to be showcased here at this tournament. So that's my predictions. We'll see if I'm correct. If you want to catch the action, the plan right now is to stream the live coverage of that event on my Twitch channel, spottingermtg, over on Twitch. I will be linking a video the day of with the link to the Twitch channel if you want to check that out. Would love to have you stop by, let us know what you think, cheer on your favorite deck or your favorite youth player, and yeah, if you want to support the scholarship tournaments or just the youth tournaments in general, one way of doing that is, of course, watching these videos. So thank you, hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, and then if you want to go a step further, check out our Patreon page over at MTG808 Junior on Patreon. So you can, we are 100% Patreon funded. All of our hours put in by our coaches are volunteer hours at the tournaments, and any bit of support that we can get from the community helps. So thank you for stopping by. Let us know what you think of the deck. Let us know what you think about the upcoming metagame, and hope to see you in the coverage for the scholarship tournament. Thanks for stopping by, and I will catch you next time. Peace.